Hi everyone, this is Dindim. I just wanted to make a nature healing guide for 5v5 crystals. Now nature healing is a lot more difficult to learn than a holy healer, but it's very fun and healing output potential is a lot greater than a holy. So the item choices that I recommend are the one-handed nature staff, mist collar, graveguard helmet, cleric robe, assassin shoes, limhurst cape, omelet, and energy potions. Now there are some variations to this build depending on the situation, but this is a great go-to build. So first, I'd like to talk about how to heal. So your main healing skill is the Q, the rejuvenation. And the goal is to constantly cycle healing stacks between everyone on your team. So most of nature healing is cycling the healing stacks, so it's putting a Q on someone, changing targets, hitting another Q, change targets, Q, change targets, and repeat. Now this is a very click intensive mechanic, and it's not one that you see in a lot of games. So this is probably the most difficult thing to master for someone new to nature healing. So this means if a teammate is in your range, they should have healing stacks even if they're full HP. So this will take some practice to get used to, but once you get this down, nature healing becomes a lot more fun. It's also tempting to double stack or triple stack a single target, but in most situations, it's better to constantly cycle between multiple different people. Okay, so using Rejuvenation should be able to keep most of your team's HP relatively high, but if you do need to burst heal, you want to use the Circle of Life, the one-handed nature E. Just make sure whoever needs the heals has 3 healing stacks to give the maximum amount of healing. Another great burst heal is a Sacrifice on the Graveguard helmet. However, the Sacrifice should be used more conservatively since it has a longer cooldown. So a great time to use Sacrifice is when someone is getting focused, or if there's a low HP target inside Adjudicated armor to give them the extra healing. Also, you want to try and not heal into healing reduction abilities like the Morgana Raven from the Charon Collar and the Helmet of Tenacity. It's better to either wait for the healing reduction to time out, or to use your heal before your teammate gets their incoming heals reduced. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the Nature W, which most people use Breeze. Now, I actually don't recommend everyone to practice with Breeze all the time, just because people tend to over-depend on Breeze to spread healing stacks. And I already talked about how important it is to learn how to manually stack with just the Q, and this opens up Breeze to be used for other situations. So the 2 main ways Breeze should be used is 1, to spread healing stacks to teammates that are not within your range, like breezing a ranged DPS with 3 healing stacks to give a melee healing stacks, or 2, to reapply healing stacks to teammates when their heals get ripped off by the enemy either through purges or like the Great Curse Area of Decay. So it's a very common combo to use Breeze and then the Circle of Life. This gives a huge reset for the team, but it's very predictable. So experienced players will target the healer right after they breeze to interrupt the Circle of Life. So if you ever need to breeze and then Circle of Life, you can use the Cleric Robe to proc the Everlasting Spirit to become invulnerable and not get interrupted. Okay, so now I want to talk about what you do after breeze. So after you breeze, everybody gets healing stacks, but you don't want all the healing stacks to fall off at the same time. If all the healing stacks fall off at once, there's a big window where no one is getting any heals. So after you breeze, you want to remove healing stacks from a safe target and reapply it back immediately. That way your team can constantly have heals going. Okay, so now I want to talk about positioning and survival. So first, you almost never want to get hit by a ranged DPS when you're a healer. If a ranged DPS is trying to attack you, you want to back off immediately. And second, if you see a tank and melee in your range, you want to be careful of a ranged DPS blinking in, getting stunned, and bursted from 100 to 0. You want to get ready to use defensive or your shoe ability to get out at a moment's notice. If you get stunned without using a defensive, a coordinated team will one-shot you. You also want to position yourself so you don't get CC'd with your DPS, so you can try and heal them if they get focused. Also, against a weapon like a pole hammer, you don't want to put yourself in a line with your DPS so you don't get both done at the same time. So the last thing I want to talk about is iframing. So Assassin's Shoes has an iframe or an invulnerability frame where you can't take damage or get CC'd. So there's a lot of things to iframe, but some important ones are the light crossbow bomb, the one-handed cursed explosion, and the demon helm silence. Now there's a lot more things to iframe, but that should give you an idea of how much of a difference iframing can make. Okay, so that's it for my nature guide. I hope this helped you to become a better nature healer.